Arvoyarns.
Well, we were talking about somebody close to both of us recently that they basically they have many ideas, but they haven't necessarily actualized, they don't embody a lot of those ideas. Like, and I agree with a lot of their sentiments, but they haven't tried to put into practice a lot of these ideas. And it's just like, well, ultimately, it's like one of two things. I mean, and you described them as them having said to you, oh, I'm a voyeur. I actually am a voyeur. I actually am a person who just wants to watch. I don't actually want to. I'm not the person to do the thing. I'm the person to read about the thing and to talk about the thing and to spread the idea of the thing. But I'm not the person to do the thing. And I think that that could be true. Like, that could really be your destiny. But I think for a lot of people, I think that it can be encouraged more to embody the knowledge. But I mean, you would argue for a voyeur would actually be fully embodying the knowledge, even though they're not, because that's their destiny, right?
I mean, like in my instance, I mean, it's like the difficulty of, like, you know, the technology doesn't exist to, like, embody it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like a choice, like, whether to embody or not. You can't
just make, like, this complex polyhedron.
It's like, yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, like, you need, you know, like, certain tools or, like, things to, like, you know, map the ideas and the concepts, like, onto your physical body. You know what I mean? For it to, like, be able to think by moving.
Well, the funny thing about that is that I remember the first time I ever had a lucid dream, which only lasted, like, the equivalent of what you would imagine was, like, 10 seconds. Basically, I'm, like, walking in the woods, and then I'm like, oh my god, I'm dreaming. And then I, like, turn off from the path that I was, and I'm just, like, running. I'm just, like, running. Like, it's just, like, literally like I would in real life. It wasn't that fantastical. But then I'm, like, running my hands through the leaves, and I'm like, whoa, but I'm like, I can do anything. But once I realized I could really do anything, everything fell apart.
Yeah, that's what happened to me, too.
Because that's the thing about beings. We're quite lucky, actually, as humans, because we can do a lot, but it's very difficult. It takes long time scales to do anything. And that's, if everybody could just, like, shoot fire, we probably would never have gotten to this point, because people would have gotten so good at shooting fire and, like, lifting up rocks and throwing them that the world would be fucked. And, like, we probably would never have gotten to this level of technology, because people would just be operating in that paradigm.
Sure.
So too with the dream, like, even the power of the dreamer, well, like, even though I'm, like, infinitely powerful, if I destroy the landscape around me enough in the dream, the idea of how I'm existing in the dream, it now isn't tenable. I can't exist in, like, this weird vacuum space where there used to be land, where I'm now, like, floating. Like, it becomes a more and more far-fetched concept even for the lucid dreamer. Mm-hmm. And so there has to be some restraint involved with one's own unbridled desires. And that's what's really interesting about being a human. I mean, that's what Buddha said about being a human. He said humans really uniquely qualified, or maybe not really uniquely, but he said, like, humans are in one of the best juxtapositions out of any being out there, because he said beings pretty much any lower than humans are really, really caught up in survival. So it's very difficult for them to transcend their current existence, because they're so caught up in just living.
That's one theory.
And then he would say that the beings that are much higher than humans are so endowed with their enlightenment and their position in, like, I guess, existential reality or something, that they get too attached to that, and so they can't transcend that to go any further. But the human can do both. The human can be caught up in survival mode, but also survive and be all good, and also transcend their own reality, but they don't have so much power that they don't all get so caught up in it. It's possible to transcend it.
I was thinking that our friend Bobby should go on one of these retreats. Because there's something so interesting about, like, how...
Cool, man, I don't know.
But just to be able to sit there.
Bobby was the homeless guy.
Yeah, well, maybe not homeless, but...
The alcoholic guy.
Just, like... It's amazing to me, just as, like, a matter of human psychology, how things can seem completely impossible, but then an hour later, like 2 hours later, suddenly become possible again. That, like, you know, you get into these modes, self-contained modes of thought, which, you know, you can barely see any way out of, but if you just let it pass, then you're in a whole other world,
This
you know?
too shall pass. He's like,
And it's like...
I can't stop drinking. It's like, well, it'll pass if you just let it.
Yeah, like, it's amazing that it's like the thing that seems impossible is to do nothing,
Yeah.
you know? And I think that is the deep wisdom of all this stuff.
And I would just
to do nothing.
I would just say, I don't know if necessarily it is the right thing for Bobby to do, because in a sentence, like, I describe my Vipassana retreat as the easiest thing that I've ever done and the hardest thing that I've ever done, because all you're doing is sitting there. But all you're doing is sitting there. Like, think about it. 10 hours for 10 days. 100 hours. 100 hours of meditation. In 10 days? That's a lot. That's like more than most people will ever do in their entire lives. And I would argue I wasn't even meditating all of that time, because I would be like, oh, I can't do it anymore. And, like, you would be in so much pain sometimes from staying in the same position. It would be really agonizing. Your body would just ache, man.
Yeah, whenever I try to sit, I feel like my ankles just get...
Really? Is it your ankles?
Yeah, like, I'm not very flexible.
It's not even really about flexibility. It ends up being really just about mental toughness. Because everybody's in pain, honestly. It just gets to the point where, like, everybody's in pain.
Yeah. No, I've always had trouble sitting cross-legged. I mean, I guess I can do it now. It's
Show,
like on like a
do it for the
surface.
people, dude.
But like here,
Look at that.
like when I was like in, like I remember like as a, like in elementary and middle school, you know, everyone would be like sitting like cross-legged, and I was like, I can't do that.
It's a terrible answer.
Like I would just like kneel instead.
I've got these weighted sandbags, which I actually just gave to my neighbor. Shout out to Dave. I've been teaching him yoga lessons, but they're 10-pound weighted sandbags, and they're like long horizontal, and so you go into cross-legged, or you go into like full or half lotus, which are like lift your leg and put it on top of your other leg, or do leg on top of other leg, and then you like fully on top of each other, and then you put the sandbags on the crease of your knee, like diagonally, and then it just pulls down your hip. You have like 20 pounds
That
of
actually
force.
I kind of like that idea.
It is so great, but it is intense.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, because that's the hardest part. Yeah, like totally, like keeping it like down.
Yeah, and it makes everything fall into place. But then everything's in place,
That's cool.
and that's.
Wait, were these like specialty made like for this purpose, or were they just?
I mean, you can probably
sandbags?
do them for other things, but I discovered them through yoga, going to a yoga class and seeing someone use them for that, a teacher, and they're like, hey, we're gonna do this, and I was like, ooh, I'm getting these. Amazon.
Arvoyarns.